Everybody? It's your boy Levi Dalamb, and welcome to the inaugural episode, officially in January 2025, January 2nd, 2025 to be exact. Today we're going to be going over a couple things going on in the news. First thing we're going to go over is some things going on here where I'm from in Baltimore, and then from there we're going to just go expand out to the national media to understand what's going on in the news headlines, from things to the Treasury to the truck explosion in front of Trump Tower. And then from there, we're going to branch out to the culture and see what's going on there. So, anyway, everybody, enough talking about it. Let's get to it. Let's hop into number one. All right. So, the number one thing that we're going to hop into is this Project Baltimore thing. If a lot of you don't know, Maryland has been brought to the front of the congregation simply because it is running out of money. So, I want to see what is going on with Project Baltimore has recently discovered. I started watching a little bit of it, but decided it'd be better to watch on a stream. But yeah, let's check this out, see what Project Baltimore is talking about.
Billion ARPA dollars to violence prevention. The result of the American Rescue Plan aimed at helping cities recover from the COVID pandemic. Baltimore City has $641 million to spend from the federal government, the result of the American Rescue Plan aimed at helping cities recover from the COVID pandemic. But it came with some stipulations.
The obligation deadline is for sure going to be a challenge.
The city had until the end of 2024 to obligate the money. That deadline now come and gone. I'm going in depth on where that money is going.
How is the city preparing to maintain the progress?
To obligate the money. That deadline now come and gone. I'm 600 from the federal government, the result of the American Rescue Plan aimed at helping cities recover from the COVID pandemic. But it came with some stipulations.
The obligation deadline is for sure going to be a challenge.
The city had until the end of 2024 to obligate the money. That deadline now come and gone. I'm going in depth on where that money is going.
How is the city preparing to maintain the progress and the efforts when the ARPA dollars were a one-time infusion of cash?
And what's going to happen to the programs it's funding after that money runs out? Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Fox 45 News in Depth. I'm Mackenzie Frost. The deadline for Baltimore City to obligate all of its $641 million American Rescue Plan dollars passed with the last day of 2024. The federal government gave Baltimore the money in 2021 at a hearing in October. The city's chief recovery officer said there was still about $21 million left to be obligated. Despite that, the city did meet the New Year's Eve deadline. Shortly after the city received the money, Mayor Brandon Scott created the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs to oversee applications from city organizations for funding and the allocation process. The city also created an online dashboard where the public can see how the money is being used. Let's take a look at where it's going. The time has come for Baltimore City's $641 million in federal COVID-era money to be completely committed. How to spend the one-time American Rescue Plan funding has been a question Mayor Brandon Scott has sought to answer since 2021. Part of the money used to create a new office dedicated to managing the city's ARPA allocation, the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs, led by Shemaiah Kearney.
So, nothing against the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs. Um, they did take that money. They should have just took use some of that money rather than to create a Office of Recovery Programs. Just create an Office of Financial Transparency, something so the public can easily go in, see where the money is being spent, and feel comfortable with knowing where their taxes is going. But that's just me. Let's continue watching.
The office launched this dashboard detailing how the money is being split up. In early 2024, Director Kearney told City Council
the obligation deadline is for sure going to be a challenge.
Now the dashboard says 100% of the funding has been committed, which meets the federal requirements. But how the money has been split up raises some questions. Diving into the dashboard, you'll see city agencies got some funding, quasi-government agencies got a slice, and dozens of nonprofits received money too. The biggest chunk went to housing. The city says more than $190 million went to create affordable housing, help homeless Baltimoreans, and other supports for renters and homeowners.
So, as someone that lives here in Baltimore City and knows how the current housing setup here is in Baltimore, that's a lie. That's a lie about money has been going towards new affordable housing services and support for renters and homeowners. That's a complete lie, in my personal opinion, because I've been told too many times when only making 24,000 a year, $2,400 a month, uh, that's too much for affordable housing. But then when you go look for a place, you don't make enough because you make too much for affordable housing. You go look for a place, the apartment tells you, oh, you don't make enough to live there because you don't have 3 to 4 months rent. You don't make 3 to 4 months rent. So I'll go on here what he said, but what I'm hearing right now is a lot of bullshit. Excuse my language.
Homeowners. As of November, 59% of the housing money has been actually spent. The dashboard breaks down funding for city infrastructure, new parks and rec spaces, business assistance, training and education, art programs, COVID response, and nearly $20 million for administration. But within each of those categories, dozens of nonprofits received some of the money too. In February of 2024, the city's watchdog, Isabel Mercedes Cumming, the inspector general, uncovered nearly $130,000 in misused ARPA funds. The investigation, sparked by an employee of the nonprofit.
Damn. So so in May 2023, they were all caught misusing the funds from the ARPA. I wonder what it went towards.
Profit who never got paid. And once an analysis was done of the nonprofit's finances, Cumming found funds used for business expenses and projects unrelated to the city program it was given money to in the first place. And expenses were unapproved by the city. Some of Baltimore's $641 million in ARPA funding were spent to grow city agencies. The mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, was given $45 million in ARPA funding, and $6 million of that was used to expand staff, raising questions about how the city will keep the funding flowing after federal dollars are gone. And while 100% of the funding has been committed, according to the city, if it's not all spent by the end of 2026, it gets returned to the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Now, the city also has committed $36 million ARPA dollars to violence prevention. The vast majority of that has gone to the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE. Nearly $21 million of that is earmarked for gun violence, and more specifically, violence intervention investment. The city does not list it out, but MONSE runs the city's flagship gun violence intervention program, Safe Streets. In November, I asked the mayor where MONSE and Safe Streets will get its funding.
So wait a minute. Monzi runs Safe Streets? That's interesting. I had no idea about that. So let me just do a little research here. This is what makes this show so interesting because we actually go look these up. So Monzi, I typed in Moza, fucking video game character. Type it. So Monzi, Baltimore. Let's see, Maryland's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Okay, so dedicated to the co-production of public safety in all Baltimore neighborhoods. Monzi partners with residents, Baltimore residents, community-based organizations, institutions, businesses, and agencies to stem the tide of violence while simultaneously its roots, unearthing its root, unearthing its roots cause. Our mission, our mission as the agency responsible for the implementation of the city's public health program to health approach to safety through Mayor Brandon Scott's comprehensive for violence prevention plan. Monzi partners with its Baltimore residents, community-based organizations, institutions, and agencies to stem the tide of violence while simultaneously unearthing its roots. Monty's portfolio includes community violence and intervention ecosystems, funding allocations for community-based organizations directly involved in the co-production of public safety. The group Violence Reduction Strategy, or GVRS, and service and victim services work. Hmm. And what was this? His prevention plan. Hundreds of Baltimoreans offered commitment, comments, and inputs and ideas on the draft of this comprehensive plan in more than 36 communities. So when this thing was being drafted, I was not here in Baltimore at the time. I was actually somewhere else, but I am still from here. But let's see what Mayor's Baltimore violence prevention plan is. So hundreds of Baltimoreans offered comments, input, and ideas on the draft of this comprehensive plan, and more than 36 community sessions, meetings with partner agencies at state, local, and federal levels, gatherings with neighborhood association, community-based organizations, city employees, and youth, and discussions with members of, what's the first thing that they lead with? Baltimore's LGBTQ plus immigrant and returning citizen populations. Okay, these engagements create spaces where Baltimoreans came together to collectively envision what the city would look like when transformation is complete, and the work of co-producing public safety. Okay, so we're not in 2021, we're in 2024. So let's see what they got in their fact sheet, whatever the fuck this is. Give it a second, it's loading, people. Okay, so this is 66 pages. All right, so letter from the mayor, letter from Monty, the preface, the 5-year plan. Okay, so let's go to the 5-year plan. It's on page 5. So let's go to page 5 because I want to read through all the bullshit. Okay, so this was what the 5-year plan for the Baltimore Violence and Prevention Program is. So the 5-year plan guided by specific themes, each to relate to each physical year. So just to let y'all know, physical year goes between October of the following. So for example, physical year 2025 already started. Physical year 2025 started and um October 2024 and will end in no, started in November 2024, will end in October 2024. I mean 2025. So that's how a physical year goes. Why it's like that, I don't know. But so the foundation year, defining and staffing the work, building initial infrastructure, and beginning to build out policies and partnerships necessary to implement comprehensive violence prevention strategy. Framing year, which is 2023, building the capacity for community-based organizations involved in the co-production of public safety, expanding initial policy implementation, and tracking key performance factors. Okay, securing year. Okay, focusing on the future, expanding communities, violence intervention, strengthening partnerships with community-based organizations, and continuing to evaluate programs. Finishing year, which is fiscal 2025, the current one that we're working in, working toward full implementation and sustainability of the comprehensive violence and prevention plan. This update fulfills a crucial. Oh, wait, I forgot about 26 and 26. Maintaining and continuing to assess interventions and use evaluations to fine tune and institutionalize this work as strategies are fully brought to scale. So this update fulfills a part crucial part of Monty's securing year mission of scale, finalizing in plans and building out commitments. So okay, so they're in the finishing year. So what is this? Executive summary. What is this? Okay, all right. So I'll come back to that later. Let's finish this up.
When the ARPA money runs out.
How is the city preparing to maintain the progress and the efforts when the ARPA dollars were a one-time infusion of cash?
Yeah, I think, and that's a great question, Mackenzie. Listen, we knew that this was a temporary thing, and this is why we're working to what we call institutionalize MONSE, GBRS, further institutionalize safe streets throughout this work.
So what a lot of people don't understand after reading some of his CVPP plan, from what I'm understanding, is that Monzi is not an actual is not is hold on. So I want to make sure. So could probably spell the agency out wrong. Okay, so Monzi is official program. Okay, just had to make sure.
This work will not go away as long as I'm here, and we're going to make sure that we do the necessary work to make sure they continue.
When he was sworn in for his third term last month, Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer told Fox 45 News one of his priorities is shifting how the city funds Monzi.
We know that the ARPA dollars are running out, and so obviously there's going to have to be some type of shift because
So if once ARPA dollars run out, all right, if Monzi wants to stay in place, how will it be funded? Which is a very good question. They're all trying to figure that out. Like, will y'all add more taxes onto people, which will then cause wages to artificially lower because of the increased taxes on the populace due to the taxes for Monty? Like, I don't know. I'm not a lawmaker, but let's finish figuring out what we can so we can be more informed.
the money is not going to continue to flow in the way that it has in the past. So certainly some of that strategy is going to change.
In 2023, we got to look at how Safe Streets spent some of its COVID relief money. Fox 45 News found the Sandtown, Winchester, Brooklyn, and Cherry Hill sites used the funds to travel to Los Angeles. The group billed Baltimore City for everything from airfare to refreshments at the hotel bar. The trip cost the city more than $2,500. And the Safe Streets Brooklyn site.
Wait a minute. So what the fuck did they go? So what the fuck did they go to? Excuse my language. What she said Los Angeles, right?
Continue to flow in the way that it has in the past.
Cherry Hill sites used the funds to travel to Los Angeles. The group billed Baltimore City for everything from airfare to refreshments at the hotel bar.
Why did Safe Streets go to LA? That is something that I have very have a lot of questions. Why did they go to LA? It cost $2,500. Like, I'm confused.
The trip cost the city more than $2,500. And the Safe Streets Brooklyn site used more than 25,000 ARPA dollars for a Windsor Mill marketing firm for what's been listed as pub.
Hello? Yo, James, let me call you in 20 minutes. Right. My bad, everybody. After I'm done this, I'm gonna hop onto the streaming portion, but to the game streaming portion. But anyway, let's get back into this.
Ed, presumed to be shorthand for public education. They also used ARPA dollars to buy a $500 PlayStation 4 video game console.
Who the fuck is dropping $500 on a PlayStation 4 in 2023? Okay.
The question of what will happen when ARPA money runs out isn't a new one. When the city received the money, it came with a caveat. It all needed to be spent by 2026. Despite that, the mayor earmarked much of the short-term funding for long-term projects. The topic came up during the city council president debate Fox 45 News hosted back in April.
We're going to have to come to a real reality where some of this do-good, some of this feel-good type of social programming will have to be cut out. And, you know, the council's going to have to stand in the limelight to try to figure out where do we cut from and where do we redirect. That is the role of the council. That's the role that the citizens gave us. As council president, I've built an organization where we have subject matter experts to look at the budget and work through the budget with the administration, and that's exactly what we plan to do. But this is my issue from the beginning of ARPA spending.
Unfortunately, distributing it around to programs like Clean Core and nonprofits, love our nonprofits, but it does not accomplish what we need to accomplish as a city, which is to deliver great city services.
Last spring, Mayor Scott was accused of using ARPA dollars to buy votes in the primary election.
The mayor's desperate. He's buying votes.
Last February, the fire union told Fox 45 News they were disappointed they did not receive any ARPA dollars despite requesting the funds. 2 weeks later, the fire union endorsed the mayor, who announced the union would receive ARPA money. At the time, the city's ARPA dashboard showed all of the city's funding had been committed. Fox 45 News questioned the mayor about it.
In February, all of the money was committed. We do know some was being shifted around, but the union had previously told me they were not getting that money. So why the change of heart, and what do you say to those who say you're buying votes?
There's no change of heart, period. And anybody that says that is just telling people whatever you guys want to tell them. There's always been pots of money that we said would go to specific things that were set aside. This is included in that. And as we reallocate any money that we have to reallocate, we will do that. Let me be very clear and transparent that we have not had any complaints from the folks who gave us this money, that being President Biden and Vice President Harris and our congressional delegation, about how we're being transparent.
Taxpayer watchdog David Williams has been following the city's allocation of ARPA dollars closely for the past few years. He joins us live now. David, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Mackenzie, and good evening. And this is problematic when you hear the mayor talking about shifting funds, right? Because when you're obligating these funds, you're supposed to say, okay, a contract has been signed into, and we know where the money is going. And the dashboard says 100% has been obligated. So to hear them talk about this is very disturbing, that they're shifting gears now. And are they going to do this further into 2025? And there really needs to be a lot of oversight and transparency if they do this more this year.
Well, now that the money has been committed, at least according to the city's dashboard, do you believe Baltimoreans will feel these investments that have been announced and touted over the past couple of years?
Well, I really hope so. And I hope that the money is spent wisely and that there's some sort of fiscal responsibility from the city council and the new city council president to make sure that the money is spent wisely. I'm not very optimistic because I've seen what's happened in the city before, and especially the Board of Estimates. The Board of Estimates has been a rubber stamp for the mayor. Now, yes, there is a new city council president, Zeke Cohen, so there's a possibility that there's going to...
So Zeke Cohen is the new Baltimore City president. Let's see who this dude is. Zeke Cohen. I think that's what that was that we saw first. Okay, so that's him. Okay. Okay, he served as a council member for the first district. What is the first district? He obviously. Then he went to John Hopkins. Okay, so So what's the first district? I can't remember what the first district is. I don't know why they didn't just give me a map that showed the city districts. Hmm. All right, I'll do some research on him to understand what the hell
Going
everything
to be
is.
more oversight. But Mackenzie, this is spending that's going to happen over the next 2 years. And there's going to be a lot of different contracts. It's going to go to nonprofits, a lot of different entities. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And this is a lot of money that they have to spend. This is not a small amount. And it's a huge responsibility for the mayor and for the city council. And, we can't keep our fingers crossed as taxpayers. There has to be trust but verify. And I think that's what I'm looking for at this point.
Trust but verify, especially as, like you mentioned, we enter the era of spending all of this money now that it has been committed to these organizations. When it comes to the nonprofits, I know that you have talked a lot about the fact that nonprofits often don't share all of the information about where they're spending the money. Do you think there's anything that the city can do to require them to explain exactly how this money is being spent, especially since this is, a one-time use of money?
There absolutely is. And when you control the money, you control a lot of things. And right now, the city is controlling the money. So if a nonprofit is getting this money, the city can and should demand complete transparency and not just superficial audits. A superficial audit just says it's going to this nonprofit for this purpose. There have to be receipts. You talked about the PlayStation. We saw the receipts, and that's what we need to see with the rest of the spending is, are they using consultants? Are the nonprofits hiring consultants? What's their overhead? The officials that work at these nonprofits, the executives, how much are they making? How much of this money is going just towards overhead and salaries, and how much is actually getting down to the city where it's needed, whether it's gun violence, whether it's cleaning up the city, you name it. There needs to be receipts to say, this is where it's going and this is how it's helping people.
He makes a very good point. I can't remember what they said his name was, but he makes a very good point. If this is over $641 million, this is literally over half $1 billion we're talking about here. And to have this money and stuff dished out to all these different organizations and stuff is not an issue. The issue is keeping track of it. That's why, I mean, personally, I says that there should be some kind of organization in place, whether it's in the federal government, the state government, or the local governments, that overlooks and understands where all the money is going to, that has all the receipts. If someone does not have a receipt, the political officials who are in charge should be forced to pay that money back, even if it comes out of their own salaries. That's my personal opinion, but they'll keep looking.
Well, nonprofits aside, looking at how the city used some of this money to grow city agencies, add staff members. We've talked about this before, but now that this money has been committed and we know that it's not going.
Wait a minute. So the money that they gained from the money that they gained from this issue, no, not from this issue, because all of this is from the COVID relief money initially. They use this money to expand agencies in the city. Oh my god! Now this has me asking even more questions. Uh, let's look to see what the fiscal year 20 is. 4 billion. That's not what I'm looking for. I need to see what the budget is. Can I find the budget? Okay, so this is the adopted budget 2026. I bet it's gonna be like 1,000 pages or some shit. Because I'm starting to realize a lot of that. A lot of stuff that is bloated is not necessarily, yeah, a lot of stuff that is bloated has unnecessary legal garbage in it, specifically so that they can siphon money off of to these different agencies or whatnot, or to different people. So, excuse me, or different organizations. So it's interesting. But summary of the adopted budget for fiscal year 2025. This is, I told you, 332 pages. All right. So this I might have to open up in two separate windows to look at. Um, you know what? I'm gonna do a separate stream where I specifically just look at the physical 2025 years adopted budget, and then I'm gonna go from there to understand everything that's in it. Let's finish understanding what they're saying about this.
Going to be a future funding stream. How is the city going to continue to make sure that these employees stay on the payroll, or will government just continue to grow now that people have been added using this money?
Well, I noticed when the question was asked of the mayor about that particular problem, he didn't answer the question. He didn't say how that these agencies were going to continue to fund these positions,
Because he can't say the truth out loud. The truth is he doesn't know. At the time didn't, he only had, because he was still running for re-election, he did not win the election yet. So now he's won the election. How will they continue to keep this money and keep these people enforced and stuff? Because the average person, especially the federal worker about easily makes anywhere between 28 to 32,000 a year, or more, depending on the different skills that they have. But anyway, I'd say at most about 50,000 a year. If they're making 50,000 a year, if you have, okay, so let's 50, let's say, let's be generous. Let's say they're making 35,000 a year, and you have an agency that has, let's say, 130 employees. So 130 employees multiply by the 35,000 a year, and that's not including it. Let's say everybody has a base salary at that, because you got to remember there is management and stuff. Off the rip, that's $4.5 million there, just for salaries alone. So it may not seem like it's a lot, but in truth it is. Because if just for 130 people and they have a salary of $35, that's already $4.5 million that they're going to spend. So let's continue listening to what they're saying.
because the city doesn't know. The city doesn't know exactly when this money runs out what they're going to do, and it's not very often that people are fired from a city agency. So my concern is that you're going to expand these agencies and expand the staff, and the city is going to say, well, we have to find a way to do this, and whether maybe it's a property tax increase or some other mechanism.
Give it to me.
And guess what, Mackenzie?
Now that people have been added using this money.
Hey, man.
Well, I noticed when the question was asked of the mayor about that particular problem, he
Hello,
didn't
everybody.
answer the
Say hi to
question.
Rashad.
He didn't say
He's a
how
little
how
monster.
that these agencies were going to continue to fund these positions, because the city doesn't know. The city doesn't know exactly when this money runs out what they're going to do, and it's not very often that people are fired from a city agency. So my concern is that you're going to expand these agencies and expand the staff, and the city is going to say, well, we have to find a way to do this, and whether maybe it's a property tax increase or some other mechanism. And guess what, Mackenzie? The state's not going to be very sympathetic. The state has a $3 billion structural deficit this year, so the mayor
Get off my head.
better not be looking towards the state to solve their fiscal problems. So this is a real mess, and it's a long-term mess. It's not just for the next 2 years. This is 5, 10, 15 years down the road that the city is going to be saddled with these extra costs.
One deadline has come and gone. Now we're looking at the next one by the end of
All right,
2026. David Williams, thank you for your
all right,
time.
we'll
You
talk
know this will
about
not
it
go
later. I'm in the
away, and
middle
I'm
of
sure we'll
streaming.
talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
I invited Shemaya Kearney, the head of the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs, to be a part of today's conversation. I didn't hear back.
I expected that. I expected that, which says a lot. So if the mayor, so what was her name?
Looking at the next one by the end of 2026. David Williams, thank you for your time. You know this will not go away, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
I invited Shemaya Kearney, the head of the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs, to be a part of today's conversation.
Shemaya. They didn't say who else it was, but Shemaya Curdy, I think they said her name was.
Didn't hear back. The city's ARPA dashboard also shows $3.8 million committed to pending projects. I asked the city if they are confident that that meets the federal requirement to have all of the money committed by the end of 2024. I also did not get a response. There have been some questions about how nonprofits receiving ARPA dollars are using it. A look at one group accused of misusing the funds it got and what we know about how that money is tracked. And as we head to break, let's take a look at some of today's top headlines.
Days away from the 2025 legislative session.
It scares me every time to see what is coming around, to see what is going to affect public safety.
Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor says he'll be advocating in Annapolis.
I dread these 90 days, but I think we'll be down there quite a bit.
Some new laws have gone into effect recently. Where do you think the current state of the juvenile crime issue stands?
Oh, so problematic.
And he says there's problems in the laws, posing a problem for public safety.
On the juvenile front, we've seen some of the damage that has been done through bad legislation, the Juvenile Interrogation Act being one of them.
Okay, so what do we have? Seems like the mayor doesn't know what he's going to do. The city doesn't know what they're going to do. Everybody's confused about what they're going to do about the budget. This is going to be a shit show, but hey, the content makes itself. I already have a good couple ideas of what I'm going to do, especially starting with going over the fiscal year 2025 summary, and from then on out. I definitely want to check that out because that's going to be interesting. I don't think that they're talking any more about this. I will skip ahead. I think this is just juvenile stuff. Let's see.
Here inside Baltimore County District Court, newly obtained court documents revealing Jones FaceTimed with his mother shortly after investigators say he opened fire on his family inside an apartment in Rosedale on Christmas Eve, saying, "I couldn't take it anymore." 1 week later, on New Year's Eve, investigators say Xander Freed fatally stabbed his mother inside their home in Pikesville.
Hey, yo,
Freed was
what?
also scheduled for a bond hearing here inside Baltimore County District Court. The 21-year-old appeared, but without representation, a judge postponing his appearance.
That's crazy.
From the beginning, there have been questions over where the city's ARPA dollars are going. In February 2023, the mayor announced nearly $15 million of those dollars would go to his new Clean Core initiative. Under the program, the city would work with 6 community-based organizations to hire workers to clean up trash around the city.
Man, that whole clean core situation, that blew me. So I knew about this clean core thing, right? But I asked a couple people that you see in the streets, what is this organization that you're working for? Are they hiring? It looks interesting. I really do want to be more involved in the process and not just be left to my own devices. I was ignored every time. Not only was I ignored, and when they did speak, they was like, "Oh, we not hiring." Or are they not talking about that they're not hiring? They're just outright saying in general that their organization isn't hiring at all, or they got enough workers, or they would give me a website to go to where I would then start to speak to someone there, and I still would not get anything. You tell them, man, how they gonna say that? For real, how they gonna say that, man? How they gonna say that they hiring for jobs, but then don't be hiring? Exactly. The lies. Tell them we done with them lies. We left them in 2024. Yeah.
the city. At the time, Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer argued Clean Core wasn't a good use of ARPA dollars, saying that money should have gone to the struggling Department of Public Works.
Why in the world would the administration give $15 million towards privatization of community groups to perform these functions and to hire people when that's exactly what we're trying to do? It's a slap in the face to our work.
Wait a minute. So he took $15 million, gave it to some private companies in order for them to hire people to clean up and promote new initiatives. He did that rather than just give that $15 million to the Department of Public Works. What? If I'm correct, ain't the Department of Public Works is responsible for our trash? So why not give it to them so they can just give them a mandatory section where they can hire people, give them money so they can hire people uh for those jobs. I just did the math. You hire 150 people, pay them at literally you pay them 35 an hour. I mean not 35 an hour, but $35, 35,000 a year. What? If you got, let's say, 130 people, $135,000 a year, that's only 4.5 million. You couldn't allocate 4.5 million, but you could allocate 150 billion to the privatization of cleaning. So now that's a lot, man. Just don't get it.
Workers, when they see these private entities getting shiny new equipment, when they're in trucks that don't have air conditioning, they're using equipment that barely works.
Months later, Fox 45 News found one of the nonprofits tasked with running Clean Core, Lazarus Wright, misused those ARPA funds. According to the documents Fox 45 News obtained in September of 2023, the city took back more than $100,000 from the group. Lazarus Wright had been granted.
Wait a minute. So they were granted 1.6 mil, received 415 it as an advance. So let's say, let me go to my handy dandy calculator again. Clear everything. So let's say they received $1,600,000, right? They got in advance of 414,477 as an advance, right? Which left what they initially got left with from their contract left them over with 1.18 million dollars. Okay, that's expensive. But then the city took back 100. Hold up, let me make sure. The city took back $129,000 only for misuse. Only for misuse. Come on, bruh.
Granted a 2-year, $1.6 million contract to work with Clean Core. It came with an upfront advance of more than $400,000. According to an email exchange.
Firstly, let's check out this Clean Core thing. Clean Core. Let's check it out. Clean Core CM. This is a data processing company. All right, let's go. Clean Core, Baltimore. There we go. Clean Corps. Okay. Let's see what this is. Planning Initiative Cleanup. Okay, so Clean Corps, about the Clean Corps initiative. Clean Corps is a multi-agency project led by the Baltimore City Department of Planning as part of the Baltimore Green Network, funded by the American Rescue Plan, or the ARPA, for Westport, which is funded by Casino Local Impact Funds. Clean Corps. What the hell is the Casino Local Impact Fund? I've never heard of that. Casino Local Impact Fund program, or the CLIF programs. Okay, the state law that authorizes casino gambling in Maryland calls for a portion of the revenue to be directed to communities surrounding each of the casinos. Maryland defines this funding as CLIF, or Casino Local Impact Grant Funds, which the city of Baltimore manages through the Local Impact Fund, CLIF Fund. Under the law, these funds may support infrastructure investments, facility and facilities, public safety, sanitation, and economic and community development, including housing and other public services and investments. Within the city of Baltimore, the geographic area designated to benefit from funding source is centered on the Horseshoe Casino, referred to as the South Baltimore Gateway. So, so they only focus on the downtown area. Wow. Why am I surprised, bro? Why am I surprised? This is literally just downtown. This is downtown, bro. Westport, Cherry Hill. That's it. Those are only, bro. Okay. Okay, that's fine. The community. So, South was going through the community, through the Cliff annual spending plans, and the city of Baltimore makes it available, funding available for its benefits. Okay, so this is another thing I want to go into later on because that's interesting. But anyway, um, Clean Court works with Baltimore-based nonprofits, partnerships with 26 neighborhoods to clean, maintain community select vacant lots by weekly alleys, weeklies, and public trash cans collect cans daily. Partner nonprofits have hired unemployed or underemployed Baltimore City residents to maintain community select sites, including maintaining vacant lots, alleys, and trash receptacles in partnerships with 16 organizations. How did I know that they wasn't going to be in my area? Because this is Drew Hill Park right here. This is Drew Hill Park, right? This ain't for the whole of Baltimore City. This ain't for the whole of Baltimore City, so I'm guessing that already. So, Bond Secure, Broadway, huh? Wow. Okay. Creating strong partnerships with neighborhoods. Clean Courts' mission is to work in partnership with residents and leaders of the 14 neighborhoods. The Clean Court grants are required to talk with neighborhood association leaders. Okay, Clean Court grantees are required to talk with neighborhood association leaders on a weekly basis in order to get their input, expertise, and wisdom in areas on address. Each of the 14 residents determine the lots and alleys that Clean Courts on are focusing in their neighborhood with this initiative. The Clean Courts neighborhoods are Arlington, Boyd Booth, Fayette Street Outreach, Broadway East, East Baltimore Midway, Franklin Square, Green Spring, Westport with Baltimore Corpse fellow Lamar West as the Clean Corpse contact. Okay, so that's interesting. All right, let's go back to
Exchange between the nonprofit and the Baltimore Civic Fund, which oversees the city's nonprofit spending. The entire advance had been spent within 4 months, but Lazarus Wright had stopped all cleanup efforts without warning or an explanation. Fox 45 News.
Didn't I just read that guy's name? Lazarus Wright right here. Oh no, that's Lamar West. Okay, okay.
Spoke with the community leaders who say they had concerns about the nonprofit and tried to bring those issues to city leaders.
And Lazarus Wright in particular had some serious red flags for you.
Very serious red flags, and we certainly made our concerns, known as we realized that the Lazarus Wright was set to receive money. We didn't get any direct response back from the administration. All that we got was notice that the award was actually given.
Fox 45 News found the head of Lazarus Wright, Christopher Irvin, declared bankruptcy, and his home entered foreclosure just a few months before the city handed his nonprofit hundreds of.
Wait a minute. So his name is Christopher Irvin. Let's look at that. Christopher Irvin. Okay. So I don't know what they're talking about. So the Lazarus Wright. Huh. Can't find too much on it. She said it's called what? The Lazarus Wright Foundation. So damn, I'm finding shit that they already misused 129,000 and 130K thousand. So from what I'm seeing from them, not nothing too good. What the hell? Wow. So their domain on their actual website they don't even own. And they went to GoDaddy of all places. That's crazy. Okay.
Any direct response back from the administration? All that we got was notice that the award was actually given.
Fox 45 News found the head of Lazarus Wright, Christopher Irvin, declared bankruptcy, and his home entered foreclosure just a few months before the city handed his nonprofit hundreds of thousands of dollars. That led to more questions about how the city hands out money to nonprofits and how it makes sure those funds are going to the right place. I spoke with Jeremy Portnoy.
That is a good question now. So maybe at the time they did not know that the guy Christopher Irvin was in debt at all. Excuse me. They probably didn't know that he was in debt. But the fact that he was in debt, declared bankruptcy. So yeah, he was in debt, declared bankruptcy. His house was foreclosed upon. This guy has money issues. But then they gave then after he was placed, not necessarily placed, but his organization was given money. But then his organization was given money not long after he declared bankruptcy. So how does this money now get distributed? So yeah, that's something that they should definitely figure out. Because if this man has showed that he has this financial irresponsibility, should we not at this should we not from this point forward with all of our organizations, nonprofits that we give money to or donate money to, should we not have some kind of organization in place that actually looks at and determines fully whether or not they get that program? Because if that's because I don't know how the program is dished out, how they give out money, I'll find out in the future. But yeah, man, it's not looking too good for the city.
with openthebooks.com about those concerns.
So one thing we've done a bunch of work on Baltimore nonprofits.
Jeremy Portnoy and openthebooks.com know nonprofits.
So we took a look at the top 100 nonprofits in Maryland. Turns out a third of those legally can't even be accepting donations. They haven't filled out the right paperwork with the state, and their registration is not current.
Hey, yo.
15 of those last year
So
were
this
in
is
Baltimore,
Jeremy
soliciting money
Portnoy.
from the public, from the state, from the Baltimore
I'm about to
government.
follow him on
Legally
X,
speaking,
everybody.
can't be doing so.
And so with that, what does the city need to do to ensure that they're complying by the law and everything is done by the books?
Yeah, there needs to be more accountability with that paperwork. Make sure these nonprofits are operating in the right way, being transparent with their directors and how their money is being spent.
When it comes to Baltimore, $641 million allocated from the federal COVID-era money, Portnoy says there are some things the city is doing right.
They have an online dashboard that they update all the time, telling taxpayers where that money's going, but there's always room for improvement.
Nonprofits must file tax forms called 990s. The forms take time to file and often don't show the full picture of how the nonprofits are spending the cash.
So that 990 is always going to tell you how much money they're accepting from the federal government, the state government, local governments. So we always know the top line number. But you're right, a lot of the times there is no requirement for the nonprofit themselves to say how they're spending the money. The government
Which they
source
should do.
usually will release something in, if it's the federal government, USA Spending, Baltimore will release it on another platform, usually telling people what that grant was paid out for. But it's not always as specific as it could be. Sometimes it's just a short few words description, and then you really have no idea where that money's going.
What can the public do to ensure that their money is being spent properly, that it's being tracked? How can they be more proactive?
Really just a matter of keeping yourself informed and keeping tabs on what's happening, right? There is an online dashboard, shows where the money is dispersed to nonprofits. Most of the time, they do reveal what it's being used on, not always, and that's an issue that unfortunately we see all around the country, not just in Baltimore. But there are examples on that dashboard, things like $1 million was spent to create a community healing village, $12 million was spent upgrading air conditioning in the library. So those are just some examples where, depending on your opinion, maybe that's not what COVID money should be spent on.
Portnoy also points to the city's recent headline-making news of winning opioid settlements. In November, Baltimore City won $266 million. And now the question arises once again, how will the city spend the money? Mayor Brandon Scott creating an opioid restitution fund.
We are taking decisive action to address this epidemic.
The executive order outlining broad parameters for how the opioid settlement money can be spent. How can they ensure that that money is being spent appropriately after they give it to the nonprofits?
I'd say the biggest challenge is just finding the correct pace of spending, right? You've got states like Delaware where they were rushing to get their opioid settlements out the door. Their attorney general actually warned them, hey, look, a lot of this money is being lost to fraud. We should slow it down. And just days later, they spent another $2 million giving it out. So it's important to go slow, make sure all the paperwork is right, make sure all these nonprofits' registration is current, and they're going to stick to their word.
Now putting trust in nonprofits again to ensure your tax dollars are being spent appropriately. This week we asked you, what should Baltimore City do to make sure nonprofits are spending ARPA dollars properly? We'll take a look at some of your responses right after the break.
Interesting. So I'm giving out my closing statements to this. Thank y'all all for tuning in. Me personally, it seems like the city right now doesn't know what it's doing on. You don't know where the money is going. You're giving money to nonprofits whose organizational leaders are going through financial troubles or financial instability. Not only are they going through financial instability, we're also dishing out money and giving this money without asking what it's been gone to. And then we find out later on that this government, not necessarily government, but this nonprofit or NGO, right? This NGO or NPO apparently has taken this money and done Lord knows one with it. Like, why would you need to buy a PS5? You feel me? Why would you need to go to Los Angeles? Like, I have so many questions about what's going on with the money and everything. That's why maybe later, probably tomorrow, because it's getting kind of late, I'm gonna do a stream on it where I look at the fiscal year 2025's summary, and I just go through all of that and then continue to work my way down, because I love Baltimore, you feel me? I love Maryland, it's my state, but we got a huge deficit going on right now, almost $1 trillion in debt. We gotta figure something out. But anyway, everybody, thank y'all for tuning in for this brief little thank y'all for tuning in. Basically, just thank y'all, because without y'all I wouldn't have any of this. Like, none of this would be going on. So thank y'all so much, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.